The All Story magazine was a magazine published around the early 1900s that included stories of novelizations. One of the stories, written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, was a story of Tarzan of the Apes, which has become really popular, and he would create multiple sequels about the character. The story goes that Tarzan's parents were British lords, and they were stranded on the coast of Africa after a ship crash. They were killed. His mother in particular was killed by Kerchak, a leader of this fictional type of monkey / gorilla thing. Of course, they changed out the film to be typical gorillas. But he was adopted by them, even though they killed his parents. Kind of weird, I know. And Tarzan was raised by Kala to be half man, half ape. He's then found, later on in his life, when he becomes an adult, by a party with, notably, being a girl named Jane, who he falls in love with, but she unfortunately has to leave to go get married to a guy named Clayton, and he cries searching for her. And that's how this original story ends. People are like, hey, we want them to get together. So the second book's like, fine, they get together. That's what happens. Essentially, it's Tarzan's adventures. He travels to Britain, and they go back to the jungle, and he and Jane have a kid, and so on and so forth. There's like 20 or 30 books, or so on. So there's a lot to work with. There is a little bit of racism in it, unfortunately. So that's not nice. But fortunately, that's not in the Disney version. So let's take a look at how Disney decided to adapt this character that's pretty iconic. So Disney's Tarzan is the last film in the critically acclaimed Disney Renaissance, and it's pretty obvious why that is. This film feels like a transitional period, being the end of the decade, 1999. It's been 10 years, as well as the fact there's some big changes to the format that would affect the rest of the film. The film uses a new technique they've been using in the rest of their traditional 2D animated films known as deep canvas, basically making CGI backgrounds look like they're traditionally animated. Not all the film uses this technique, but it is successfully used to make backgrounds more dynamic for the creative shots we've seen that you were able to use with CGI in the past. Just another example of CGI taking over the animation industry. Not only that, Disney's also taking some elements from certain CGI films into their Tarzan film here. Most notably is the music. The film is no longer a traditional animated musical like the previous film installments, but it still features music. Like in the film Toy Story, which is a film that Disney made, obviously, well, not really made, they produced it. The film has songs sung by someone who's not the characters outside of the film, explaining the plot. And while that worked in Toy Story, here it doesn't really work that well, especially since this film feels like it wants to be musical, but it just cuts around the corner, and it makes the film feel weaker, in my opinion. Especially when the person writing and singing the songs is Phil Collins, who's a fucking complete jackass. Fucking can't stand him. But this non-musical trend would be a thing that would go into the post-Renaissance era, where it seems to really hate the musical genre. I think some people like the music in this movie. Me personally, I think the Oscars snubbed South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Yeah, I'm one of those people. Even Robin Williams thought they should have won the Oscar. Look, he's performing the song from South Park. Yeah, South Park had a better animated musical number song than a Disney film, and that is a fact. The reason I'm mentioning the music so early because it's one of the biggest problems I have with this film. While I think Tarzan's a good film, it has two big problems, and one of them is the music. Being a big fan of musicals, it sucks that they're going away from the genre, but in this way, it's even worse than just having no music at all. The film even tricks you. During one scene, you think the characters are going to sing the song, because it makes sense, but then all of a sudden, Phil Collins just takes over and sings in his very annoying voice. The scenes feel like we're taking away from the characters and focusing more on some random guy singing in the clouds, because the way he sings without any emotion towards anything. It's the same tone throughout all the songs, and he just sounds like, this is about me now! During the intro, it's pretty bad, because without the sound, this scene's pretty interesting and very well adapted. However, when you have monotone Phil Collins singing over characters getting killed to death, it just doesn't fit at all. In fact, the strongest part of the sequence is when the music stops and you're just left with the character's animation, which is nice to see Disney doing a silent feature, but we can tell exactly what's going on, and that's amazing. No Phil Collins needs to sing over to describe what's going on! It just feels very strange. Like he's like, well, I'm Tarzan, right? But you're not Tarzan. You're just some guy in the clouds. And it just does not connect at all. And the fact it goes on over and over again is really irritating. I also don't think he's a good songwriter, as a lot of the songs have really painfully bad lyrics. And like I mentioned, his voice only has one inflection, which doesn't work very well in a movie like this. I would play some of the lyric song parts for you, but if you don't know them, but I can't, so I won't. It just sucks. Let's just say that. All I'm going to say is the next time I watch Tarzan, I'm going to put the mute button on during these sequences because they speak better for themselves than with Phil Collins speaking for them.
I'd like to sing the complex and amazing song that won me the Oscar! A song entitled, You'll Be In Me! Don't even start, I can feel you pushing against my heart!
A minute? Phil Collins sucks ass!
So let's talk about the other biggest problem in the film, which you already know if you've seen the film. The villain. Clayton is a lame villain. Unfortunately, we're on a roll here with another bad villain. The biggest problem with this character is that his plan is about as stupid as it sounds. He's captured half of the crew, or at least a quarter of the crew, and doesn't kill them or anything like that, so basically they can just rat him later on, which, what the hell's the point of that? And he's going to sell gorillas on the black market, I guess? This is a very expensive plan. Are gorillas that even profitable? I don't think so. This takes place the same time period as the original book, so I don't think gorillas were that expensive in the 1900s. You know, people were cruel to animals back in the day, but I just don't see how this would be a profitable venture of all the complications that could possibly happen. It seems like a really stupid plan, actually. And apparently the best way to do this is by shooting your gun off all the time, because that's a smart way to get live gorillas. He wants them alive, I'm pretty sure. That's why he puts them in cages. So why does he keep shooting at the jungle constantly from the very beginning of the movie? It's kind of a juxtaposition, isn't it? You want live gorillas, but you're shooting your gun constantly, all the time. That will either, one, scare them off, or two, kill them. What is your plan here, dude? And none of these people question him beforehand. Like, hey, it makes no sense to shoot off a gun. I mean, they say it a little bit, but like, oh, it's natural. I was like, okay, well, we'll go along with it, even though we don't want the gorillas killed or something like that. It's so fucking stupid. This guy is such an unnecessary villain. It feels like, well, we gotta have like a climactic battle at the end here, so we'll just do it, I guess. And then he tries to kill Tarzan, but fails. He does have a very memorable death scene where he strangles himself to death, like, geez Louise. I mean, they went out of the way to animate his body hanging there in the shadows. Like, geez Louise did, so you don't have to go that hard. So, like, that aspect of the character, but he's also like a weird mini twist villain, which is always lame as hell. His motivation makes no sense. Not only that, but he paid off a good amount of people to do this. Like, how much are they getting out of this in order to do something as dangerous as this situation is? That's why I'm very confused by, because just nothing about this plan makes any sense. Like, how much are gorillas worth for the black market? I don't get it! And this boat here doesn't seem that big to hoard that much gorillas. I mean, it's not a small boat, but at the same time, they want a lot of gorillas in order for this to be profitable, so I don't get it. Why was this the main villain plan? It's not in the book, it just made up for the movie, so what were they thinking? Well, couldn't they have a better villain? In fact, they could have, easily. Throughout the movie, there's this vicious leopard that always attacks everybody, known as Saber, who actually kills Tarzan's parents along with a baby gorilla, so everyone hates this character. This character doesn't talk, but it is animated very well. So not only does this thing kill babies and looks vicious, and it killed the main character's parents, and it tries to eat the main character as a baby, you would think this would be the perfect main villain in the movie. It has all the stakes informed with it, it's a vicious looking character, it has a past with the characters, so obviously there should be good reason for this one to be the main villain, but no, it's defeated midway through the movie. It's a cool fight scene, that's for sure, and I like the scene, but the fact that this is the middle part is okay, I guess. Ultimately, it doesn't mean a whole lot. When I was watching this part of the movie, I thought, well, that'd be a perfect ending. Well, too bad it isn't, because it feels like the movie ends. This should get Tarzan all the respect from his gorilla parents, but it doesn't. Kerchak still thinks he sucks after destroying this evil leopard that's been terrorizing them for the past 20 years or so. No, Kerchak's like, actually love you, Tarzan, near the end of the movie after he gets shot by the guy that only knows about him because of Tarzan. So there's no reason for him to actually be like this way near the end of the movie. He should be like that after the Saber attack, but whatever. But that's the main issue of the movie. Is there anything good about it? Well, sure, there's a lot to say it's good about. One is the way that Tarzan is animated. This film has a great energy and flow to it. Around this time in pop culture, extreme sports, including skateboarding, snowboarding, were very popular in the mainstream, and they thought, well, it would be cool if Tarzan was like that, but he did that through the lens of the jungle rather than a cement jungle like skateboarders do. So not only does he swing on a vine, but he also surfs through the vines and tree trunks, and it looks very well done. Due to their new animation process, they're able to make this look fluently and very smooth, and I like the way it looks. These scenes are very fun to watch. I would say from an animation standpoint, Tarzan's one of the best looking animated characters in terms of his unique movements. They got him to look very like a man who lived in a jungle through his unique mannerisms that you wouldn't see in a regular human, and that's very cool to see. You can tell that a lot of time and effort went into creating this character as opposed to writing the story. The rest of the characters are either okay or fine. Like Rosie O'Donnell Ape kind of sucks, she's kind of annoying, and I don't really understand the character. And there's also an elephant that's okay, I guess. I don't know why elephants are brown in this movie. I haven't seen a brown elephant in my life. Pretty much all of them are gray, so I don't really understand it. For the most part, these characters are barely in the movie, except for this really weird sequence where they make sound effects with stuff. I don't get it. Is it like a song? It sounds like shit. This sequence is incredibly weird. They're like, we wanted a musical number here, but we can't have the characters sing, so we'll do whatever hell this is. I don't get it. Anyway, there's other characters like Jane, obviously. She's a pretty great and funny character. They made her actually quirky, which is always nice to see, and she actually has a very nice relationship with Tarzan. You're actually happy they get together in the end, because they actually work off each other very well, despite being from two different worlds. Half the movie is them simping over each other, which is kind of funny. Apparently Jane has a thing for eyes, apparently. She gets really into drawing his eyes. Like, she's really wet right now. The other characters include Tarzan's adopted parents. Kala the ape, she's great. Nice ape mommy. You gotta love her. And there's Kerchak, who is okay, I guess. He's like the stern dad, doesn't like Tarzan. He's not one of us, but we barely see anything of him. So ultimately, his death has no impact on the audience. I feel like in any other film, this death scene would be a lot more impactful, but because we've seen so little of Tarzan and Kerchak together, and Kerchak's resentment for Tarzan makes very little sense, it just doesn't lead to anything. It leads to I guess he's dead. Oh well. And of course there's Klain, who isn't really funny, he's just a really stupid guy. If his character wasn't written to be like a main villain and just a goofy, weird guy, then maybe it could have worked a bit. Learning him not to be such an asshole and shoot things all the time could have been an interesting dynamic. But no, he's just a dumb twist villain. I also don't really find him funny. You know, he tries to do funny things, but none of it rings well for me at all. I feel like Tarzan was so close to actually being a really great animated film, but unfortunately, due to the fact that the music isn't good and the lack of a good villain, brings this film down more than it really needs to. And while this film was a bigger hit at the time, currently it's been less talked about, and Disney seems to be less interested in doing anything with this film. I think a lot of these decisions just didn't really line up for later audiences. This is the biggest reason why it doesn't have as much impact as other Disney films that didn't do as well as maybe this one did when it came out. But I definitely recommend anyone who hasn't seen Tarzan to watch it, just for the animation alone. If Tarzan was a full-blown musical and it had a way better villain, like made Saber the main villain overall, sort of like a Shere Khan villain, then maybe we would have had something really great. But what we have is just a alright/good film. One thing that actually bothered me, these little nitpicks, the fact that this one scene we see lemur. Now, it doesn't take any expert to know that lemurs aren't in mainland Africa where gorillas are. These are obviously silverback gorillas, which are in mainland Africa. And obviously lemurs are only found on the island of Madagascar. So someone made a big blunder there. Like a really big blunder. I mean, anyone who's seen DreamWorks Madagascar film can tell you that. So that's Tarzan. It has a good romance, has a good main character, has a weak villain and weak songs. So overall, it's a pretty mixed film. Like virtually every other Disney Renaissance film, Tarzan was given a direct-to-video sequel, or more like a midquel, about young Tarzan trying to find his place in the animal kingdom, I guess. It actually it's not that loosely far off from the one of the Tarzan books, which actually have gone back to his past to see how he grows up, so I would say, well, there's actually Tarzan sequels like that, but no, they could do this. In fact, there was another Tarzan sequel that did do more like the books. To promote a Tarzan TV series known as Tarzan Legend of the Jungle, they made a direct-to-video sequel movie called Tarzan and Jane, which follows the events of the original film, and essentially just a couple episodes from the pilot of Tarzan TV show. It's Tarzan, but TV form, with way worse animation, but what do you expect? I mean, this animation doesn't look very good at all, actually, because I've seen the Aladdin and Little Mermaid TV show, which had pretty fine animation. This looks like absolute garbage. Not absolute garbage, but it looks kind of like a porn parody animation more than an official Disney one. I know that was a weird comparison to make, but that's what it looks like. Tarzan will get a 2.5D platformer on the PlayStation, N64, and PC, known as just Tarzan, following the events of the film. You even get to kill that asshole Clayton, who shoots puffs of smoke at you and throws knives. But luckily for us, we can shoot him in the balls. And this game also had a Game Boy Color version, which actually doesn't have too bad animation for what a Game Boy Color can actually do, because keep in mind, those consoles are very limited, but it looks like Pumbaa there's in the game. That's what it looked like. Did you see that, or is I just making that up? No, Pumbaa's from Lion King's in the game. Isn't that lovely? And he wants to kill Tarzan. Tarzan would actually make a leap to the next generation on the PS2 and GameCube. A year after the 6th generation game, there was a Tarzan game on the GBA called Return of the Jungle, even though it looks like you're playing as baby Tarzan, where Pumbaa is once again trying to kill Tarzan. I don't know why, but Pumbaa really hates Tarzan in these games. I didn't mention this game in my Lion King review, but there is a Disney Extreme Skate Adventure, which is a Tony Hawk ripoff, but it features 3 Disney franchises, being Toy Story, Tarzan, and Lion King, where essentially you're doing Tony Hawk related stuff in Disney-like environments. Now, it is a ripoff, however, it's a good ripoff. It mimics the elements of the franchise very well, and if you want to play Tony Hawk with Disney elements, well, here you go. It makes perfect sense, though, for Tarzan being in the game, since his movie was inspired by skateboarding culture, so it makes sense for Tarzan to have a skateboarding-like game. So if you want to play Tarzan game, then I probably recommend this one, because, well, Tony Hawk games are always fun, at least for me, at least. For some reason, everyone's a kid in this game, so even someone like Jane, who we never saw as a kid, we're playing as the kid version of her. Why not adult version Tarzan? I don't know. As a kid, I would rather play as adult Tarzan, but that's just me. Also, they have very weird skateboards. Like, why is she skating on a mirror? Couldn't find a real skateboard there, Jane? I mean, you let me know. What's the worst skateboard here? We got a mask, a mirror, and this elephant guy here is on bamboo. I don't know how sturdy that would be. I mean, maybe it would be, but would that skateboard well? Who knows? Not the way it's designed here. And Rosie O'Donnell's on a pan. I guess that one worked probably the best if I had to guess. Let's go to the Disney parks where we get to see the main Tarzan attraction, Tarzan's Treehouse. This attraction replaced the original Park Day attraction to the Swiss Family Robin's house, or whatever that was. I don't go on these things because, one, they're hard to navigate, I have claustrophobia, as well as they're mostly designed for little kids. People are mad about Tom Sawyer Island probably getting replaced, but no one seemed to care when this Tarzan attraction replaced Swiss Family Robinson, which is still at Disney World, by the way. So pretty much this attraction is pretty much exactly the same as the previous version with the layout, but it has some Tarzan elements, but not really, so it's just a basic walkthrough attraction that's kind of fun for the little kiddies out there. Like, wow, here's some stuff they kind of had in the movie. Isn't that exciting, kids? Well, not really. They eventually would change it again to just the Adventureland Treehouse. So there you go. Hey, but there's more attractions. At the Animal Kingdom, there's this show called Tarzan Rocks, which is a show singing about Tarzan, but rock form. It looks incredibly dated, and this thing closed in 2006, which actually ran for quite a while, actually. It's pretty goofy, actually, I gotta admit. And Goofy's not in the attraction, so it's Goofy without Goofy. There's a much more accurate and less dated version of the attraction known as Tarzan the Encounter at Disneyland Paris, as well as Hong Kong Disney, which has their own title, slight variations, where it's a bunch of interpretive dance with characters dressed up like animals. It's what you see is what you get. That is it. Let's go to the tier ranking. Alright, you know what time it is. It's time for the rankings. Tarzan gets a B tier. It beat out Hercules because I feel like Hercules has bigger problems, and Tarzan I feel like two changes which I guess are kind of big, but overall it's more structurally sound as a film, I guess, in that regard. The Renaissance is pretty strong with only one film that I considered bad and everyone else being good, including having 4 films in the S tier. So Disney Renaissance, give yourself a pat on the back because you did a great job with their film consistency, and these films are probably the ones I rewatched the most coming out of this marathon. For princess rank, yes, Jane is a Disney princess. She's not official, but that doesn't matter. One, because, well, if she's with Tarzan, and Tarzan's the king of the jungle, what does that make her? You see what I'm saying there? Anyway, yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue me on that. Like I said, this list is obviously based off characters who are actually part of royalty and filmed her there, rather than just whatever Disney's people they think it's going to be marketable. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. Jane is in the A tier. She's pretty good, but there's a couple characters I think are better than her. But she is better than a couple others too. So she's not bad. A tier's pretty good for her. When it comes to the villains, we actually have a weird difference here in villains. You see, I actually have the main villain ranked lower than a side villain. This doesn't happen very often, like at all. The side villain's obviously supposed to make the bigger villain better, but they're two different. Technically, they're not related. One's the villain for the first half, the other one's second half, but the second half's the ending, so it's more, that's the one you're going to remember more. However, Sabor was a much more better villain. She didn't have that much screen time, and yes, the character was apparently female, in case you didn't know. She did leave a more impact on the story, and had, well, was wanting to kill people in the jungle to eat. So better motivation than where hell Clayton's motivation is. Clayton is just a character that gets worse and worse every time I view the movie because his motivation is shitty. He's got a stupid pencil mustache. His lines are, he just shoots his gun all the time like a fucking buffoon. God, I can't stand the kid. I can't stand him. So I was thinking maybe put him in E tier. But you know what? Even Ratcliffe's a better villain than Clayton. He doesn't deserve to be in the same category. So Clayton, go hang yourself, I guess. F tier. The only thing worse than Clayton is the music in this movie. You're looking at all the songs in the movie. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. Every song in the movie is in the bottom of this tier list, other than one song which is in the E tier. There's not much songs, but I do not like a single one of them. Even the one that isn't even sung by Phil Collins is the worst one in the movie. That says a lot. So let's go for them worst to best, or worst to least worst, like in this case. Yeah, Trash in the Camp. I couldn't even get through it listening, because I'm not sure if you haven't seen these tier list things I do before in these videos. Eventually, I watched the movie, and then before doing it, I listened to the songs again separately just to make sure where do I want to put them in the ranking. When I feature, I'm going to do like a whole video where I put every one of these in a whole video, and I'll probably have to listen to them back to back to see which one I really like, dislikes. This could change. However, for this one, I listened to them by themselves without the animation, and just think, where does this belong on this list? And this Trash in the Camp song, I literally had to turn off like a quarter way through it, because the animation, you're just like, what the hell's going on? You're just confused. But listening by itself, like, this is just flat out awful. One, Rosie O'Donnell's the main singer, essentially, going like that in your ear. That's just plain out, flat out terrible. It's worse than my voice, let's just say that. And then we got Two Worlds. This song I can't stand. Lyrically, just like a guy like, 2 worlds, 1 fam! It's the same thing over and over again. Like, what the hell? And the way he goes, nah, nah, nah. I hate Phil Collins' voice. I can't even imitate it. I don't know why I'm even trying to imitate it. It's probably making your ears bleed right now. But yeah, the way this song is structured and how it ruins an opening that could have been very impactful and powerful, because Phil Collins just has to like do this weird voice where he's like trying to be whimsical but failing miserably because he's monotone as fuck. How is this guy a famous singer? By the way, Genesis is a fucking terrible band. Anyway, Son of Man has some of the worst lyrics in a Disney song. With the courage to be brave and the wisdom to be wise, all these will come to you in time. What the fuck does that even mean? Son of Man, a man in time you'll be. I don't know. This guy can't even write lyrics. And then you listen to the melodies, and there's basically just da 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 da. Like, what the fuck is this? Bring back Alan Menken, because Phil Collins can't fucking write to save his life. Oh god. You'll Be in My Heart is a little higher on the F tier, but it still sucks because Phil Collins trying to be whimsical, but like I said, he's monotone as hell in his voice, so it just sounds like he's whining a little bitch the whole time, rather than an emotional song between a mother and adopted son, which is how the song starts out. It was just Kala singing this to Tarzan. I mean, sure, she probably wouldn't be the best singer, but at least it's the character singing that, so you get more emotionally impactful. Sometimes you don't have to have the best singer in the world for a song to be that great, but at the same time, we got Phil Collins singing instead of her, and that's what bothers me even more because it transitions into it. I don't know why that really bothers me a lot. E tier, the only song I think is salvageable by the least is Strangers Like Me. Someone else singing this could be better, but still, the melody and lyrics kind of suck. In the Thumb is the song that works the best. But even then, Phil Collins still brings it down with the previous problems. I do not know why they would hire him, but luckily they didn't do it again. Just kidding, they did it for Brother Bear. So I can't wait to watch that movie and hear Phil Collins songs and have the same exact problem. Lovely, I can't wait. Luckily, it's only 2 films. And Brother Bear sucked already, so it wouldn't matter. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert for Brother Bear future review. Brother Bear sucks. Anyway, that's it for Tarzan. Thank you for watching. Next time we enter the strange world of Fantasia 2000. See you then.